Welcome to the Mind Body Podcast. I'm your host, Maria Angelova, and I'm here to challenge everything you have been taught about aging and wellness. This podcast is for those who refuse to accept that growing old means growing unhealthy. Each week, I will bring you dynamic conversations with inspirational guests, sharing practical advice, insights, and motivation to live your life rebelliously as you age with grace and vitality. This is your time to embrace self-care, transformation, and an infectious spirit that says no to the conventional and yes to a vibrant, powerful life. Let's dive in and redefine what it means to live well. Hi, Rebels, and welcome to the Mind Body Podcast, your rebellious podcast with me, your host, Maria, where it is all about a strong body, calm mind, healing, and fully living. And boy, is there a treat for you today. We have here a leader, a trailblazer in the industry of human optimized performance, longevity, anti-aging. We have here the Chief Vision Officer of Vine Medical. Welcome, Dr. Suzanne Ferree. How are you doing?
Oh my gosh, Maria, I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited that you're here. It is so exciting when a badass such as yourself says, yes, I'll be there. And I really geek out and I'm like, yes. And as we talked right before pressing the record button, there's so many things we can talk about. Let's see what we can squeeze in 20 to 30 minutes because we can do a whole season of just talking about all of the things that we talk about. Yes?
Yes, so many things.
Yes. Well, welcome. And let's dive right in. Let's get to know who is Dr. Suzanne. Like, who are you as a person? Give us a little bit of a backstory of who you are, not as a physician, but as a person, as a rebel.
Sure. So I am a power lifter. And that's my fun sport. I started out just running and got an injury that I had trouble recovering from. So there was a really great trainer at this tiny little gym called Roswell Barbell. It's around the corner from my office, just a mile away. So I started training with them. And as I kept going, I said, wow, I really love this. And I love that it was about the body and about getting stronger and not about my appearance. That's what really sparked my love for it. So as opposed to about getting skinnier and smaller, which is what a lot of my friends and a lot of women in general, especially women my age, are trying to get skinnier and skinnier and to compete with the people around them. For me, it became about competing with me and diving deep into my heart to look at what's the deepest I can bring up to really get this lift, so that I only have to do it one time and I only have to be successful at it once. And my coach would say, you can do 300 pounds. And I was like, there's no way. And then whoop, I would lift up 300. I was like, wow, there's amazing. There's this awesome picture of me at the end of the lift, the meet, hugging my coach. And he's this big bird, huge power lifter, with long, stringy gray hair and, huge. And it's me just like tears streaming down my face because I had just done the lift and it was so great. So anyway, that's my fun sport outside. And then I love dancing. I have a karaoke microphone and I love to when I hear a great song, I just flip on my karaoke microphone. It's got like sequins all over it. And I just sing and dance in my living room. So that's how I keep my heart soft and feminine.
I love it. And I do have to say, we totally have to geek it out with the microphone because when I sing and when I dance, I'm totally on stage. I have zero singing talent, but boy, do I have great singing desire and great dancing desire. And I think it's one of the best things that you can do to really feel good, like in body, mind, and spirit. Nothing like a great song and just totally enjoying it with all of your senses and moving and thinking from your heart. And another thing that I love that you brought up is, which I'm very passionate about, and I talk about that because maybe I've shared this with you, is I personally don't work with people who are focused on weight loss and, the way their body appears. I do with a lot of, especially women, I do have to say, to embrace the body and the way, to embrace the way the body looks, because body imaging is something real. And I see a lot of people doing fitness and really not enjoying fitness so that they can fit into a certain size, into a certain shape. And I've even had conversations with my young daughter, who is a teenager, who is comparing herself to her friends, who I'm like, baby, even if you don't ever eat like that, like you have mommy's genes and you're going to be curvy. And it's just how it is.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, thank you. But it's like we have to embrace what we have and stop that comparison trap of having to look a certain size to feel confident about who we are. Because what we have and the health that we have is a gift. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, because and I would say, especially as we go into the years of change, which I'm getting there, also premenopause, things start naturally shifting. It's a big deal for us, especially for women now. And I'll tell you this, Dr. Suzanne, and I don't know what you have seen this in your office, but I don't hear men speak about their bodies the same way that females do. Would you agree?
I think it depends on the man. I do see a lot of that, though.
Yeah.
And even a client this morning who said to me, so what else do I need to do? I'm doing cardio. I'm doing this other thing. And I said, what I want you to do is look yourself in the mirror and say, he's like, what else can I do? And I said, I want you to look yourself in the mirror and say, I love you. I forgive you. Now let's go out and get them.
Yeah, it's a different mindset approach. Yes, it's a totally different approach. I see a lot of females beat onto their bodies. And,
so bad. Yeah.
And let's just be honest. I mean, let's dive, I guess, right into like aging. As we age, our bodies will naturally change, right? We have a choice with how we take care of our bodies, right? With the lifestyle of what we eat, how we exercise. You know, I love when you spoke about powerlifting, how fired up you are. You obviously are doing this because you're enjoying it. And I think that's something else that's super important versus, well, I have to do this because you're doing this and you're having great results. No, like I might hate it. What might work for me is, I don't know, dancing, right? Two totally different things, but what are the things that you enjoy? And then sleep, hydration, the basics. Now you're an expert into, aging well, into optimizing human performance. Like, what are some of the things that you tell your patients? What are the things that they can do from a mind-body perspective, what I do, to then support that through the medical science and what's out there now? Because there is a lot of that out there now as well.
Correct. So we do, in our practice, we spend a lot of time doing things like working on all the pieces that you just talked about, particularly things like making sure people are sleeping. And we just think, oh, it's sleep. But sleep is where your body restores itself and recovers from what you've done to it during the day. Your body will take the trash out while you're sleeping. And curiously, there are these cool little channels in the brain that only open up during sleep. They're sort of like trash chutes that the brain will dump, all the cells of the brain will dump all of the trash it's created during the day into these trash chutes, but they only open at night. So if you're not getting an adequate number of hours of sleep, or you're eating too close to bedtime, you're not getting those open channels to dump all the trash out. And that's where we begin to develop things like neurodegenerative diseases, because like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinsonism, and that, because we're not allowing our bodies to do some of that trash cleanup that it really needs to do. So they're all related. How much trash we're putting in, how much trash we're allowing to go out, all of that's super important. We do spend a lot of time in our clinic talking about optimizing hormones, talking about using peptides, which are these beautiful small strings of amino acids that do all these things in your body. They're in every single organism that is known. They work to make everything happen. So when you taste a lemon, that's peptides. When you see bright lights or a sunset, that's peptides. All of this is working because of the peptides in your body. So we deplete those as we age. And we are now able, because of some brilliant scientists, not me, who are able to create these in a lab in a very simple way. So now we can give them back to you as you lose them with age, and we can restore some of that natural, youthful expression of your DNA. So much of your more youthful DNA kind of closes in on itself or contracts as we age. And we can get those spools of DNA, the youthful things, to open back up again. And when they open back up, we can transcribe, we can make all these new peptides and vitamins and all the things that we need, because that more useful expression is there. So that's one of my favorite things to do, is working with hormones, working with peptides, helping with, we call it human optimization. So as opposed to talking about athletic performance, I think about every client that I have. So my moms, my executives, all of those patients all have human performance to do. And so as they're trying to be the world changer in the world that they are, I'm helping them to get back to, we are working together to get them back to changing the world, whatever that is.
Yeah. I love it. Several questions pop to mind, Dr. Suzanne. Let's talk about a little bit more about peptides, because peptides can be controversial, right? You hear people are like, yes, yes, yes. And then people are like, no, no, no. And I think it is so hard for people to be like, which trend do I follow? And as you know, the space of Google and the internet can be a scary place to discover information. What can you give us a little bit of from a medical standpoint, from a scientific standpoint? Can you give us a little bit of background on when can peptides be, so to say, dangerous, right? What are the things to be mindful of if you're going to use peptides? I think another area that's becoming really dangerous is the self-diagnosis, and people start using things that they don't really know enough about instead of under medical supervision. Is that something that touches on peptides?
There are probably around 1,000 peptide-trained doctors in the United States. There's a couple of organizations that do this. SSRP does one, A4M does one. There's a few other organizations that do it well. And so what they do is train people on how to use peptides, to know exactly what they're doing inside your cell, how they're affecting the way it changes, and when to combine them and how to combine them. Most of these doctors are using compounded pharmacy peptides. So the dangerous part comes when you get your peptides from a research lab. It's going to come to you with a label that says for research purposes only, not for human consumption. They're going to be very inexpensive. These research labs aren't required to do the third-party testing that compounding pharmacies are required to do to prove both purity and sterility. What I mean by purity is it is what it says it is. It's got to be at least 99% what it says it is. It also needs to be free of bacteria and viruses and other things that can be toxic to you. Metals, things like mercury can be in a lot of peptides.
Heavy metals.
That aren't, if they're not coming from a known compounding pharmacy, that's where you're running into problems. Yes, they're going to be a little more expensive, but that's probably worth, especially since most of these are injectable. You're going to be injecting them into your body. You don't want to be adding to the toxin burden, just like we were talking about a minute ago. So allowing your body to get exposed to the exact chemical that your body naturally uses is so brilliant to restore those levels and be able to turn back on those useful genes.
Okay. So when you're going to somebody who is recommending using peptides, you want to be sure that that physician is actually trained in using peptides, and that the quality of the peptides that they use is certified as clean.
Correct.
Yeah, which I think applies to so many things today, like supplements, like I use essential oils. There's so many things that we just don't think about, purity and what else is in there aside from what you want to put into your body.
Correct. Yes.
Hey, Rebels. I want to take a quick moment to share something super exciting with you. If you've been feeling stuck, disconnected, or just know there is more to life than what you're experiencing, I have something special for you. I have created a powerful 6-step video series called Unleash Your Potential, an introduction to the Angelova Method. As a valued mind-body podcast listener, the series is my gift to you. In this series, I will guide you through the core elements of the Angelova Method, a unique approach that integrates movement, mindset, and mastery to help you align your body, mind, and life. You will learn practical techniques to improve your alignment, boost your core strength, and connect deeply to your inner self. Whether you're looking to enhance your physical health, gain mental clarity, or simply live more fully, these videos are designed to get you started on the path to your most vibrant self. And the best part? It's completely free. So if you're ready to break through barriers and unleash your full potential, head over to mindbodyexpert.com and get started today. Let's take this journey together, because you, my rebel, deserve nothing less than the extraordinary. Another topic that you talked about is human performance. And I think sometimes when people hear performance, they think an athlete that's performing, in the Olympics. But like in my world, human performance is you being able to put your shoes on. That is peak performance. You being able to sit on the toilet seat. That is peak performance. And we don't think about those things until we cannot do it. Because we just take it for granted that we move, that our body is able to move, right? What do you say to people who are like, well, I don't care about optimizing my performance?
Well, I think that one of the things we have to realize is we can I have several patients who are in their 80s who are still playing golf regularly, who are still rolling around on the floor with their grandkids. And the reason is because they make an effort to make that a priority, that their flexibility and strength and maintaining their flexibility and strength, as well as their endurance, are a priority for them. When you're not making that a priority, it makes getting up and down off the floor more difficult. So, for example, I'm always trying to, when I get up and down off the floor, rather than putting my hands on the desk, pushing myself up, I'm trying to put my hands in the air, do that without using my hands. So I'm using the leg muscles. I'm really getting the glute muscles engaged. I'm getting all of my balance worked out so I can stand up, all of that. And so on a daily basis, things like putting your socks and shoes on while you're standing. These are simple things that people think, oh, well, the easy way is for me to sit on the bed. It is the easy way, but that means you're not giving yourself the opportunity to be challenged in your balance. And so now we begin to lose balance, and people will come to me and say, why am I having trouble with balance? What should I do? Well, I can send you to physical therapy. I can send you to Maria, or you can start doing every single day, get up and down out of your chair without using your hands, and get up and down off the floor without using your hands, or use them as small as possible, and put your socks and shoes on without sitting on the bed. Just little things every single day makes all the difference.
Yeah, brilliant points, because the one thing I tell people also, it's those small steps that you take on a consistent basis that will make the difference. And I'm so glad that you brought up prioritization, because just today I was talking to somebody and I was like, listen, when are you just gonna have time that you're just sitting around thinking, what can I do now? I have nothing to do. I mean, chances are, unless you're like in a stage of life where, you're maybe retired, that's not going to happen, right? So the things that we think are important for us, those are the things we are going to intentionally find time for. And I think it's very important to be honest with ourselves when we say, I don't have the time. I mean, what I tell people is like, you either find the time proactively or you will be forced to make the time reactively.
Correct.
And I will tell you, I work with those people who take the reactive approach, and it's a much longer journey to have basic independence. I'm not talking about running marathons. I'm talking about putting your shoes on and putting your socks on and getting out of bed with no pain. And so I'm really glad that you're addressing that, because I think that's something that we have to change the mindset around, prioritizing our well-being. And starting with the little things. It doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be powerlifting. It can be just get off your chair without using your arms. As simple as that.
Well, and I think it also applies to my clients who are performing, for example, as moms, as executives at a board, who are working, who are entrepreneurs building a new business. They have to have that cognitive performance all day long. They have to be able to speak to groups, to be able to intelligently and calmly and with love speak to their children, and be able to give the things that they need to give all day long. So, and a lot of our moms are working all day and then coming home and taking care of kids, and then having to be wife as well in the evening. And so that throughout this is a very long day we're talking about, and you need your cognitive skills all day long. So also we're talking about being able to provide them with the ability to keep going in the face of all those demands. So many of the women that I speak to are sandwiched between their elderly parents they're caring for and their young, teenage children that they're growing up, and this sort of middle ground. And then they also are working. So how do I juggle all of these things? And then again, patients who are entrepreneurs like yourself, who are trying to function in the world and do what they need to do cognitively every single day. So and do a podcast and put out all the marketing materials and make sure they're attending the conferences and in the right places at the right time. And what's the next thing I need to learn? So we also have a whole cognitive profile that we help people with in human performance. There's also part of that includes, we spoke a minute ago about neural therapy, which is the use of procaine in helping people, particularly who are in that sort of constant fight or flight state. This is a therapy that's been around for over a century. We've used it for a very, very long time. And it's just local tiny injections that are administered by a provider that help with turning down the sympathetic nervous system. So many of us, we know about the fight or flight response and we know about the rest and digest response. Mm-hmm. And the sympathetic nervous system is what we call that fight or flight response. Many of us, even since that big pandemic we had a few years ago, are in this kind of fight or flight response. A lot of our kids are in that state, a lot of people in general. And there are a lot of patients who have this PTSD or that have sort of a traumatic response or triggering to the world around them and are having a difficult time coming down from that triggered place. And so one of the great things we can do with this neural therapy, we use an old local anesthetic called procaine. It was the originally derived from some of the anesthetics that were used in surgery. It's very different from many of the others because it actually resets the way that cells work to restore blood flow to damaged or injured tissue and to improve the electrical current. So imagine all of your cells are kind of like a battery and they lose their charge over time, especially damaged tissue. So if we can restore that with the injections of procaine, then we're able to help the patients to get back to health, get back to recovery, restore the blood flow, restore that function of the cells. And now the tissue works better and the organ works better and the entire organism works better. So it's exciting to be able to provide that for our patients and allow them to also, that's part of our human performance package.
And you know what I see, again, a couple of points come to mind, but specifically in the context of procaine, one thing that comes to mind is I work with people who have bad injuries, severe injuries, right? So we have to retrain the body, we have to restore it back into alignment, we have to get the right muscles to kick in. And sometimes what I see is they can do the exercise, they maintain alignment, everything is great. The minute they get up, the limb comes back. And it's like, you just did the work that will help you get rid of the limb. But their nervous system and their muscles are in that state of where they've been injured, right? And it protects. Correct. And their nervous system does not let go, even though they have developed the strength, they have rebalanced the body, they have reestablished alignment to function back into where they started. So I think that would be something, I don't know if you deal with cases like that, but that is something that I think would be really cool to see how that could help somebody like that. And then from the perspective of sympathetic versus parasympathetic system, I see a lot of people who are very highly stressed, like they have a million different responsibilities. And the one thing that we're not taught of is start with yourself first. It's like, well, take care of your parents and your kids and your husband and your employees and da-da-da-da-da-da. And then when you have energy at the end of the day, take care of yourself. Well, at the end of the day, there is not much energy that is left there. Okay. So the one thing that I totally see like an overlap in what you do and what I do is changing those habits, that's a mindset shift too, because let's take a mom. Moms feel very guilty when they put themselves before the kids. But I'll tell you personally as a mom, one thing I have realized is that I would not have had the capacity to be the mom that I am to my daughter if I didn't go through my growth journey of what I am today. Because I was that mom who would come after a 10, 12-hour day, exhausted, stressed out. I had no kindness. I was snappy and irritable, and I didn't have time to see her painting or her dance or whatever. It was just time for dinner and to do this and to do that. And it's like, go to bed, and you're kind of like running on that hamster wheel, and you can't even enjoy the little things around you. And kids grow up so fast. So I think that's another aspect of we're so conditioned to be in that state of chronic stress, and people constantly tell me, oh, well, I'm used to stress. Yes, but what is stress doing for you? Is it really helping you? Because I'll tell you, it's not. And short term, you can deal with it, but long term, it has significant implications on your well-being.
And so much research has come out recently about the Heart Disease Association, the Liver and Kidney Disease Association with having a sympathetic overdrive where your vagus nerve is suppressed and everything is wound up. And so even though it may be where you live normally or where you function, I think we miss out. My brilliant yoga instructor down in Costa Rica this summer said to me, I am first, I am second, I am third. That's what he said all the time, every day. He'd be like, remember, I am first, I am second, I am third. You have to make choices that are going to take care of you, because it's actually selfish for you to not be taking care of you. Because then you can't be, as you suggested, you can't be the mom or the executive or the entrepreneur that you need to be. You can't be the creative. You can't give the love and creativity. How do I bring beauty, creativity, nurturing to my staff, to my business, to my patients, if I'm not bringing that to myself first?
And actually, that's another point I wanted to make is when you started talking about being focused and concentrated, when we're in that sympathetic, constant state of sympathetic system, creativity, focus, concentration, they don't live there, right? Mm-hmm. You can be creative if you're constantly like in a state of freezing. It's you have to give yourself the space and the intention to be present into whatever you're doing so that you can really thrive.
Preach it, sister.
I love it. See, I knew it. We could talk and talk and talk and talk. Okay, so let me ask you, what is your definition of rebellious?
I think it is saying no when you really feel like you have to say yes, but saying no to make a priority of you.
I love that. I love how you tied it to the conversation too. Yeah, I was talking to somebody today about feeling guilty when she stays true to herself. And I've been there. I can so relate to that. And it's that develops in itself patterns, right? That we start doing things for others to make others happy. But long term, it really does not serve us. So.
Well, and I always tell patients who say that they can just take guilty and put it beside them and say, thank you for coming today, guilty, but you're not part of me.
One of my clients said, because I coach the same thing, like have those conversations, right? When those thoughts come, have these conversations and put them to the side. And she said, I feel a little bit crazy. I said, that is totally normal. Yes. Yeah. You're going to have a lot of those conversations when you're talking to yourself, and over time they become normal, right?
Yeah.
So yes, put them where they belong. Thank you for your contribution. I don't need it today. So yes, very well said. I like that one. How did you say it? I'm my number one, I'm my number two, I'm my number three. I like that.
Correct.
I'm totally stealing that, Dr. Suzanne. Okay. But tell us, where can people find you? Where can they find you? You're doing a lot of things. You have a book that recently came out. You have something exciting coming up in the next couple of months. Tell us about all that stuff.
Yes. So all of it is on Instagram. I'm at Dr. S. Feree, DRSFERREE. And so you can follow me there to be able to get what's coming up. But for any of the providers, this is what's exciting for me. Neural therapy isn't super well known. So we've been doing conferences and teaching doctors how to do this at our practice. And the next one is coming up. Module 1 will be in February. So check my Instagram, Dr. S. Feree, to see when that next one is coming up. And if you're interested in my book on peptides, it's called Counterclockwise. It's available on Amazon, and it's Suzanne Ferree.
And quick question, is that book for somebody like me, or is that more for people in the medical community?
Absolutely. It's approachable for patients and providers.
Okay. And in terms of the conference, who are the people who doing the therapy would be great for? Like, who are the people who can offer that to their patients? Is there a particular group?
It would be anyone who's has any patients that are ever in pain, anyone who has any patients who have trouble sleeping, anyone who has any patients who are anxious.
Wow. Anybody know anybody like that?
It's really been a game changer for our practice, and it's such a blessing to be able to teach. We love doing it. And my nurse practitioner, Melissa, is brilliant at teaching. So she's big in the part of the teaching there. So I love having her on the team.
Love it. Love it. Well, do you have a piece of advice you want to wrap this up with?
Don't forget that taking care of you is the number one. And so making sure that you're making a priority of what is it that I need right now in this moment, and making sure that you figure out a way to get that this day.
I love it. You're speaking my language, right? Thank you so much, Dr. Suzanne. I really appreciate you being here and sharing your wisdom. And we covered a great variety of topics that I think we hear about, and sometimes we don't really know exactly what they're about. So Rebels, the spiel. If you have any questions, let us know what those questions are. Make sure that you follow Dr. Suzanne on social media. If you have any questions about the upcoming conference, her book, let us know. We will post all of those links in the description of the episode so that you can easily click on those. Like, comment, share. And Dr. Suzanne, thank you again so much. I appreciate you being here. Rebels, thank you for tuning in. As always, do not forget to stay rebellious. See you next time. Thank you for joining us on the Mind Body Podcast, where we explore the power of living authentically and rebelliously. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow rebellious soul who would love to hear what we share as much as you do. Stay strong, stay calm, and most importantly, stay rebellious. Until next time, rebellious souls, keep living fully. Your journey is just beginning.